Anybody who has not gotten their textbook yet or is having problems they did not foresee? So that means everybody's gotten their textbook?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Next week, I've only heard from like 2 people. Is everybody else alive?
Yeah.
You guys still waking up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I've asked a couple questions and only like a couple mouse whispers have answered. I want to do. I was able to get some of the names off of this, and then there were too many faces on the screen for me to really get all the names. So I'm just going to go through and uh, ask who else is here. Is Sarah here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. How about Camilla? Oh, I
Yeah.
see. All right. Emma.
Here.
All right. Grace?
There.
Here.
Here. Okay. Kelly?
Here.
Excellent. Catherine?
I'm here.
Excellent. Taylor?
Good morning.
Good morning. Brianna?
Hello.
Hey. How about Lauren?
I'm here.
Excellent. David? Is David here? Hey, how about Hiram? Give me just a second here. I am fiddling with something and I will be done in just a second. Let's see. All righty. Okay, today, oh, before I get into that, next Friday, we're going to go over the third quiz. The third quiz deals with Module 3, which is the biomorphic abstraction carving. I believe everybody cast their block. Is that right? Because I saw quite a few blocks there. I think there may have been only a couple people that didn't, but I'm pretty sure everybody cast their blocks, right?
The plaster blocks, right?
Right. Yes.
I know Tuesday's class got all of them.
Okay. How about yesterday? You guys did too, right? Everybody that came?
we did.
Okay, excellent. I wanted to mention to you guys that Jason said that our classroom, that room, when we got done with it, looked better than it had before we started. So I really appreciate you guys taking the cleanup so seriously. That's excellent. And that, I think that reflects on your professionalism for a big part, but it also makes it so that, I don't know, we're kind of paying it forward and we're setting a standard for the other students to make sure that they clean up for us. So excellent. Good work, guys. Okay, I wanted to spend some time talking about realism and abstractionism and non-objectivism. I would like everybody to grab a piece of paper or open your sketchbook and just draw a horizontal line almost as wide as your paper. Would you do that and then let me know you've done that?
Hey, Professor, sorry to interrupt, but my Microsoft Teams froze when you were calling attendance. But Madeline Clark is here.
Oh, too late. I'm sorry. No, I saw your name on the screen. There's not only 9 names that show up, and you were one of the first 9, and so I got you anyway.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so let me know as soon as you get that done, drawing that horizontal line, let me know.
I've got one.
All right. Anybody else?
Yep, got
I'm
it.
done.
Okay, I want to hear from a couple more people. Make sure you're live.
Done.
Got my line.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got my line.
Excellent.
Done.
Excellent. On the right hand, what's that? All right, excellent. Okay, on the right hand side of that line, I want you to write realism. Tell me when you got that done.
Done.
Excellent. On the left hand,
Done.
what's that? Another couple, good. On the left hand end of that, we just need to get all of those out. Thank you. On the left hand end of that, I want you to write non-objective. And let me know when you're done with that. I'm going to drink my Wendy's orange juice while you guys are doing that.
No, I want orange juice. I'm done.
When I went to Wendy's this morning, I wanted to get the 2 for $4 breakfast sandwich thing. And there was some confusion at the checkout. Evidently, I paid for the guy ahead of me, and he paid for mine. And they asked, do you want your change? And I said, no, that's fine. Maybe he'll realize later that somebody did something for him. And they said, oh, you want an orange juice? So I got a free orange juice. That was excellent. I heard that the record for people paying for the people behind them in a fast food restaurant was all day long. It happened about a month and a half ago. And it was about 140 people paid for the person directly behind them all in a row. I thought that was kind of neat. Anyways, okay, we got that line done. I'm going to do a screen share right here. Let's see. Share content. And we're going to talk about this. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes. I can see it.
All right, excellent. What is this? What is this a painting of?
Tree.
Yeah. Would you say it's realistic?
I'd say it's stylized more than realistic, but that's probably just me.
Well, it is considered a very realistic tree, and paintings generally are going to be stylized. But if you look at this, you can see that the spread pattern is pretty consistent with how branches spread in the real world. And it's not quite as stylized as Bob Ross. You're right, but it is on the realism's end of the spectrum. And you can see that the background is pretty stylized, but it's stylized in a way so that it looks like there's trees in the background that are just out of focus. Now, how about this? Do you think this is more or less stylized than the other one?
I'd say it's less stylized. It looks really realistic.
These two are, this is from one of my favorite painting schools. It's called the Hudson River School. It's called that for 2 reasons. Main reason is that it was a group of artists working in New York at the time. And the second reason is that they were painting genre or kind of boring real life nature scenes from the Hudson River Valley. And the school is generally characterized as a stylized rendition of nature, stylized where man becomes, or the human presence becomes almost inconsequential, and the natural presence is almost overpowering. So can you guys see my mouse arrow move around?
Yeah.
Okay. So we see these very naturalistic trees right here, and they are a really significant part of the landscape. We see some bovines right here. See this little thing right here, this little blob? Can everybody see this blob?
Yeah.
That's a human being. And then right here, see that? That's a human being as well. And this is the human being's boat. So what we've got, and see right here, what do you think that is, that white thing?
They look like cow.
Right here? These are actually buildings. There's a building right here.
Like the other white thing.
Oh, right here? Yeah, that's a cow. These are both cows. Then right over here, so we're talking left and up from the cows, we have a church, we have a couple larger structures, and almost a barn-like building. What's interesting about this is the most realistic things are the trees. I mean, look at how realistic that is, how realistic that is. We've got these mountains that look very realistic. This is almost exactly when you look across the valley or towards the south on a slightly overcast day, this is almost an exact depiction of that. And then as we get closer to the realization of a presence of humankind, then like these bovines, they are real, but they're a lot less defined than the trees. And then these human beings, unless you knew they were there, you wouldn't know what they were. And then the things that the human beings have built are even less defined. Can you see how that? The progression of realistic depiction from nature towards humankind, and then evidence of the human's presence, how that becomes less and less realistic. I want to hear from 4 or 5 people. Can you see that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And this is one of the defining characteristics of that Hudson River School. Even the moss on the rocks right here, even see that moss? That's even depicted more realistically than the people. Isn't that interesting? Now, would you say this is stylized or realistic?
Stylized.
Yeah, this is an painting by William Morris. He was the one who did a lot of that stylized leaf and plant motif Victorian style wallpaper. This is actually from a Persian, stylized after Persian miniature paintings, where you'd have a central image that was realistic enough that you could identify what it was, but it's stylized to the point where it looks almost idealized. And then you have a flat background with this kind of repeating plant motif, so you know that, what do you think that this represents? Just these little tufts here. What do you think they represent in the background?
Grass.
Yeah, exactly. So it is stylized, but it's still has enough of those visual triggers that you can tell what it is. Obviously, this is a tree. Obviously, these are what? What are these guys?
Birds.
Yeah, exactly. And what are these? These red globs, what are they?
Flowers.
Yeah, exactly. They're stylized to the point where you are never going to see, or very rarely going to see, a bird that looks exactly like that, leaves that look exactly like that, a tree that looks like this, or flowers that look like this, but they just have enough of those visual cues so that they read as flowers. So still it's semi-realistic, but we're going more towards the abstract end, or the non-objective end of that line that I had you draw. Go back to your paper really quick and write just about a quarter of inch, well, doesn't have to be a quarter of an inch, but a little bit to the right of non-objective, I want you to write abstract. And I want you to write or draw just a short vertical line just to the left of the end of that horizontal line you drew. And I want you to write or draw another vertical line just to the left of the far right end. So you have little vertical ticks just on the inside edges of that line. Does everybody understand that kind of?
Like a ruler kind of ticks?
Yeah, but just 2 ticks. I'm going to draw it really quick and show it on the camera so you have an idea of what I'm saying.
I think that would help, yeah.
Okay. And I'm writing really quick what you guys have. Okay, you ready for this? I've done such an exceptional job of making this just exceptionally beautiful. Okay, can everybody see me? Oh, let's see,
Yes.
right there. Okay. Can you see that line? Is it in focus at all?
Yeah.
I've drawn the line from here to here. So this has real, non-objective, and then I've done these vertical ticks right there and written abstract. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, excellent. I'm going to go back to screen share. All right, there we go. So on that line that we have with the real on the far right and the non-objective on the far left, abstraction generally means that the real is simplified. And depending on what the artist wants to communicate, there'll be more or less visual cues to identify for the viewer what the thing is that's being represented. So would you say that this depiction by William Morris, do you think it's a little bit more towards the real end of the spectrum or a little bit towards the non-objective end of the spectrum in that abstract realm?
I'd say real because it has like branches and leaves still. You know, it's not just like shapes of green and brown.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is actually taken from, I mentioned earlier, it's a Persian miniature painting style. It was a style that was generalized and became really fashionable in Iran and the Transoxiana after the influence of Islam. And Islamic scholars read a lot of Plato. Remember that article that I gave everybody last week about, it was called Phaedo? I doubt anybody read it, but in it he talks about art, and he talks about art being sometimes being a reflection of the world of the ideal. And so the stylization of the tree, enough information is given to you so it's a very clean looking tree. It's obvious, and you can see each and every leaf. And these elements of tufts of grass, it's very obvious what they are, and they're very clean. When the Persians developed this was meant to symbolize the ideal world, which in their theology was heaven or Jannah or paradise. And so that's why this looks the way it does. You can instantly see, is there anybody that had any problem identifying this as a tree with leaves, fruit, and birds? Did anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Yeah, because
No.
that's exactly how it's designed, but it is abstracted. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is actually a reproduction of one of the historical national flags. Every United States flag that has ever been designed for the country is still completely legal to fly. We just have agreed as a consensus to fly the typical 13 red and white stripes flag with the field of stars in blue. This was a flag that was commissioned by George Washington and flew over his camp. Now, what is this shape here?
It's the silhouette of a tree.
Yeah, it's a tree. Would you say it's hyper-realistic or stylized?
Definitely stylized. Like you can't see individual needles or anything. It's just the shape.
Exactly, and it's abstracted. So this is do you think that this is a little bit more abstracted towards that non-objective end than the William Morris one, or do you think it's more realistic than the William Morris tree?
It's more abstracted, I would say.
Yes, very much so. Would you like to know what this flag actually means? Why George Washington had it?
Yeah.
Do you guys recognize the name Patrick Henry?
Yes, but I can't put anything to it.
Patrick Henry was one of the early people that helped to found the government of this country. And he wrote several things. One of the things he's famous for is, "I regret that I have only one life to give to my country." But he at one time he wrote that the tree of liberty, in order to stay fresh and growing, must from time to time be watered with the blood of patriots. And so this is the tree, this is the flag that George Washington flew to remind everybody this field of red represented their life. And that everybody fighting for the country, it was their honor and their duty to put their lives at risk to help to water the tree of liberty for their families, their friends, and their future generations. So that's what this flag represents. But yeah, this tree is very stylized, it's very abstract, and we're getting a little bit closer to that non-objective end of the spectrum. Now, does anybody know what this is?
That's a Japanese character for tree. Like kind
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Would you say this is more non-objective, more stylized, more abstract, or more realistic?
Definitely more abstract.
Yeah. And it's interesting, we look at this, that is easily identifiable as a tree. This one starts becoming a little bit more difficult, but if we look at it, we can tell this stroke is the trunk. This is one edge of the silhouette. This is one edge of the silhouette. And then this is the horizon behind it. So we can see that now, right? Can everybody see the tree in this kanji?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is very much stylized, almost to the point, if you didn't have context, this would almost be non-objective, wouldn't it? Now I'm going to show you another landscape painting that has trees in it. I'll give a, if I had one, I would give a wooden nickel to the first person that tells me who the artist who painted it is. Anybody know this artist? Okay, her name is Karen Green Recor. She paints on metal panel. And this is a landscape. Can anybody tell me where the trees are?
Are the trees the two big green splotches?
Yeah, exactly. So this is, we're getting really close to the non-objective side, but you can still feel where the trees are, can't you? Why do you think that those are the trees? What identified those as trees to you?
Mostly the color, but I would say the shapes and how they're offset into a distance, and that's really about it. A lot of it is up to determination.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if you were from an area like New York City that didn't have a lot of trees, it would probably be completely foreign. If you don't see trees very often, it'd probably be very hard to make out. But I think the only reason we can identify those as trees is the color, like you said, and the placement. And that's pretty much it. You know, maybe down towards the bottom here, we can see that as maybe a trunk kind of thing. Maybe that's a trunk shape. But it almost doesn't matter because it's so abstracted, you could almost see whatever you wanted in it. But yeah, very much. Thank you for those answers. Here's another landscape artist. What's the name of this artist? I'm sorry, I did something to the screen. Anybody know the name of this artist?
Here at Montreal?
Yes, exactly. Did you know this was a landscape?
I mean, that's debatable, but it's cool.
Well, you could say it's debatable, but he himself would go out and paint these. A lot of the times he would paint these while he was standing in a park looking at a landscape. Did anybody know that?
I rescind my comment.
What he tried to do was simplify and parse down what he saw to fit a vocabulary that was consistent with the contemporary or modern world. So essentially, you know, he was right at the beginning, right as people were starting to discover what the machines that became the computers. And so he was looking, it was almost an exploration of a binary way of looking at the world. So he used horizontal and vertical lines, and he used white and primary colors. Sometimes he would use green. But it's almost impossible to see a landscape in this, isn't it? Can anybody see anything that you could maybe visualize as elements of a landscape?
I guess, well, maybe just because we've been working with a theme of trees, but I imagine that the blue square was an important element of the landscape, one that had to stand out from the, I guess, rhythm of the rest that Mondrian was trying to create.
Yeah, you're right. He actually has done images of trees and stuff that are very similar to this, where he did exactly that. And it's fascinating to see the evolution of that. Would you guys like to see how he would go from drawing a tree to making something like this, and it was still representing a tree? Anybody want to see that?
Oh, definitely.
All right. Top left. Can anybody identify well, actually all three of those on the top. Do those look more or less like trees?
Yeah, you can tell that there are trees.
Which is the most tree-like out of those?
The first one, the top left.
Yeah. I would say these are all six of these images are very strongly in that abstract realm, but that top left is very strongly towards that real end. And you can see the top right is abstracted to the point where you almost don't know what it is. And these are all depictions of the same tree, which is really kind of interesting. And can you see any of that treeness in the bottom right, where it's just the vertical and horizontal lines, orange, white, gray, red, and black? Can anybody see any of the tree in that one?
Not really.
I mean, I think a lot of the horizontals and verticals like line up with important places on the tree. Like the big red square, I think, pretty loosely defines the same area of the tree, and same with the trunk. Like one of the line between the right there. That sort of defines where the trunk is as well.
Yeah, and this area that has a lot of the red reflection, we see these kind of images or these kind of branches right here. I think that corresponds with this line here. We see this area up here, this area right here, and there's a collection of branches there. I think that corresponds to this line here and these areas. And the branches start dipping down and changing direction. And I think, and they're smaller, and I think that corresponds to this area here. Yeah, there is. If you have these right next to each other, you can start seeing the correspondences. But if you are only shown that, like this, how on earth, unless somebody told you it was a landscape or a tree, how could you see it? I honestly don't think that's you could see that unless somebody told you. And so these fit. This is a lot more abstracted because it still has a lot more relationship to it. But as we get closer from here to here, these get moved from abstraction almost towards that non-objective. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think so. Now I'm going to go back really quick. I'm going to stop presenting and pull up at something else. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I screwed up. Just a sec. Going back. All right, here we go. This is the next thing I want to show you guys. This goes into our carving, what we're going to be doing next. Our carving is going to be focused on building non-objective, abstracted biomorphic imagery. These are all examples of 20 to 150,000 year old depictions of humanesque forms. This one right here seems to be really close to that non-objective type abstraction, but you can see, can you see that all of these are pretty much abstracted? And can you see that almost all of them have identifiable relations with the human form? Anybody see that?
For me, I can't see anything, and I think it's just a personal issue. But
I can't either,
as
and
in,
I
like,
thought
I
it
can't.
was mine.
No, I can't see either, so.
I can't see
Okay.
anything.
I will point some things out then. On this image here, so we're talking second row down, second one in from the left. This is a head.
We can't see.
We're saying we can't see because it's not on the screen.
Oh,
There's
really?
no images for us
Sharing
to
the
see
content.
on our end.
Oh, that's what you were saying. Okay, here we go. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna do share content. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
we go.
All right. All right, from here, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Can everybody see the abstracted human form in this?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that Lady of Venus? Is that
Yeah.
what that's called?
Yeah, there's several different examples of this, but it comes down to these are images of the sacred Earth Mother, pretty much. These were mostly found, or a lot of these, when they're found in situ, they're found in caves that seem to have been used. Several anthropologists suggest that they were used in ceremonies connected with the idea of birth and wombs and safety and nurturing. So that's why they believe that these are several people believe these were intentional depictions of particularly the feminine sacred, or the sacred feminine. One of the earliest Greek cultures was discovered, their remnants were found on the Cycladic or Cyclades, which is a chain of small islands. And so these were called Cycladic figures. Can you see the kind of abstracted humanesque forms in this? What do you think this image on the far left is?
A face and head.
Yeah, because we can see this. This looks like it could be a nose. This looks like it's a chin right here and a neck down below, and then going up to the top of the head right here. How about this? What does this look like on the far right?
A body with no head?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that this, even though it looks like a violin, this looks like maybe the upper clavicle. This could be a neck right here. I think these are shoulders. I think this is a waist. And I think these are hips. So I think this is a humanesque form too. But these are very much abstracted, aren't they? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that middle one for sure.
Yeah, very much so. Now we jump from thousands of years ago to today. This Henry Moore liked to do things where these sculptures sometimes they'll be called figural, but they'll be called figural only or figurative only because or primarily because of the scale, not because anybody can make out that these are human beings easily. These are so abstracted that they start getting it really heavily into that non-objective section, aren't they? Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
Now this, in light view of our conversation so far, what do you think that this might represent? Do you think it could have anything to do with human beings?
Definitely, and it looks like he might be highlighting the inner soul or maybe the heart of these two humans interacting together.
Yeah, that's what I see too. And I see it as almost like Henry Moore's take on that famous sculpture, The Kiss, by Rodin, where it looks to me like they are interacting and it's a very intimate interaction, but these depictions seem to be more representations of essence as opposed to body. So yeah, definitely. And I think that this is a stylized depiction of the same kind of scene, an approach towards intimacy, primarily because these 2 points aren't quite touching. But it is very abstracted. Can you see the human form in this one?
Yes.
What does this look like?
A head.
Yeah. And I think this reminds me a little bit more of, remember that video we saw of the reclining figure? This kind of reminds me of that, where there are elements of it that approach humanness just enough that you can start seeing that this is a very stylized and abstracted figure. Here's some more examples. This one I see just as an exploration of form. And I think there's something very satisfying about the feel of the shape, but I don't see a human form in it. And this one, I see maybe legs and knees. I see this as an arm being raised up with maybe the hand going behind the head. And I see this as almost a head. Do you guys see the same things I'm seeing?
Yeah.
I really like Barbara Hepworth. Now, instead of making abstracted things that we can identify, it looks to me like she is just really enjoying these shapes. And I feel content with just looking at the shape and wanting to touch it, but I don't really care what it is, quote unquote. Do you guys like these forms just for themselves?
Yeah, I think they're really interesting.
Yeah, I like that almost conversation between the smooth blankness of the inside and that really beautiful wood grain on the outside. I think that's really nice. And here's some more examples. I think this is a carving. Isn't that amazing? Now, Jan Hans Arp, these are figural as well. Can you kind of see the knees, the hip and waist, the chest, and the head? It also almost looks like a depiction of a dancer. Can anybody else see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is more of an exploration. It's just kind of a fun exploring of different shapes. Now I'm going to go through the rest of these fairly quickly. I want you to just look at these forms. What we're going to be carving, biomorphic abstraction, that's essentially we're taking organic forms and we're just playing with them. And sometimes they can look like bones. Brancusi was really good at making things look like just almost archaeological finds, where this is a fish. You know, believe it or not, that's an abstracted fish. These are chess pieces, but they just are interesting and fun forms to look at. I really like this person's work. This reminds me of the Cycladic idol that we saw. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Easter Island figures. This guy's stuff, I really enjoy his stuff too. And this is some of Jason's early work where he was really, can you see like a pelvic bone right here? One of his jobs was actually casting dinosaur bones, and that informed a lot. Can you see how that informed a lot of these shapes? Can you see the bone structures in these shapes? Anybody?
I can definitely see that, yeah.
I can.
Yeah. And these are students that were carving in stone. Stone is expensive. It's time consuming. It's a pain in the butt. That's why you're carving in plaster instead. After you take a later class carving in stone, you can thank me. But I like these forms. They're not trying to depict something real. They're just exploring shape. And they're organic. This is what we're looking for. All right, I'm going to exit out of this. Can you guys see me again?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Hey, are David or Hiram with us? What's that? David, you're here. Okay, great. How about Hiram? Okay, when we start carving, we're gonna be talking about that a little bit more. But in the meantime, between now and when our class meets on Tuesday or Thursday, I would really appreciate it if you guys would, if you had some time, look up biomorphic abstraction. Look up some of these artists that are in, and go over that the artist research section of this module, the module 3, because I think that would really help you to kind of get a better understanding of what we're talking about. So today we just did a really fast survey of realism to non-objective and abstractionism. Does that help everybody get a better understanding for the kinds of things that we're hoping to approach in this next project?
Yes,
I think so,
thank
yeah.
you.
All right. Do you guys have any questions for me in our last minute of class? If not, I'm going to try to get everything graded that you guys have turned in over the weekend. If you do have any questions, email me. I've been trying to get back to people within a day. Sometimes over the weekends it's a little harder to do that, but I try to get back to people as quick as I can. So if you, and at any point, if you need to resubmit something or anything like that, when you do so, make sure you email me so I can go back and check it out. All right? Any last questions before we go? From the vibration of the silence, I will say that that's a big no. So I will look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday or Thursday, and we will get started carving. All right? So I'm going to end the recording now, and I will email it to everybody as soon as the link gets into my inbox. All right?